Hello, and welcome once again to Escaping Dystopia. My name is Wa. I'll be your host. Tonight's episode is full frontal fucking fascism. It's here, it's happening. The thing that many people were worried about, that Project 2025, is here. Now they're enforcing it. And this last week has been an absolute cavalcade and overwhelming number of horrible stories, one after the other. So I decided to do a show about it, I guess. Because what the world needs is one more person talking to you from their basement. Except that's kind of something that the world does need a little bit. Let me talk about a couple things real quick. One of the things that we talk about on this show, before I get into the last couple weeks of news and go through all the stuff, by the way, this is my current main outlet over here on the blue sky, and we'll get talking about that here in a bit. But one of the things that I talk about on the show pretty consistently is this thing called Spaceship Earth theory. This will become more prominent over the next few years as one of the goals of Project 2025 is to turn the United States into a Christian theocracy. I'm not a big fan of that, so my argument is going to kind of generally directly attack some of those foundations of that concept. According to some of the latest executive orders and our new Attorney General, that will most likely make folks like myself enemies of the state, as there is a new executive order against anti-Christian bias. Let's do that, as that's one way to get into this real quick as I start to talk about this a little bit. Let me look this up and I'll get it on the other screen. Executive order anti-Christian bias. Yeah, this is the kind of thing that's been happening a lot this last couple weeks. Anti-Christian bias against the ICC as well. It's been pretty wild to see this go on over the last few weeks. I again, the notion in the order, the executive order about anti-Christian bias, one of the things that Donald brings up is the people who tried to bar folks from accessing abortion clinics and then were charged with crimes, claiming that somehow is an example of anti-Christian bias when they are trying to use their religion as a justification for taking away the rights of others. Stopping them is anti-Christian bias. There's also stuff in here about the ICC. We have an executive order combating anti-Semitism as well. Anti-Semitism is now described as people who criticize the war in Gaza. Folks, there's so much stuff going on, because even when I talk about Gaza, then I want to bring up the other thing that Donald mentioned on that, which to me was a bit of a full distraction. When Netanyahu, who was his first visitor to the White House, by the way, so all the folks who didn't vote for Harris in order to punish the Democrats for that, well, he fucked up pretty bad, obviously. And during the press conference with Netanyahu, Donald mentioned how he'd like to wipe out Gaza, casually mentioned ethnic cleansing as a positive thing. This kind of stuff, this ethnic cleansing, moving on, this racism stuff, this is the standard of what these people are bringing to the fore now. There is the executive order on race in schools, the executive order on South Africa now, on just only white South Africans are allowed to come to the United States. It goes on and on and on. The size and space of this, folks, it's really hard to communicate for people who don't pay attention to things, and for people who just read headlines or just kind of barely follow stuff. What is under assault right now in the United States is the concept of the rule of law itself. All of these things that Donald and Elon have been doing, and I'll talk some more in detail about those here in the next few minutes, they're completely and totally illegal. That's not the question, right? Oh, I got blocked by the Chiefs person. That's hilarious. The executive orders that are coming out and the stuff about closing and shutting off U.S. aid and closing the CFPB, that's not how things work in the United States. The executive branch doesn't just decide what to spend money on. They are told specifically by laws. This is what's going on right now over the last few weeks. Elon and his cronies have gotten access to the Treasury Department. One of the things that happened there, and this is kind of the crazy thing there, one of the kids who he has running for him ended up resigning, right? Because they had found out a bunch of racist posts in his past. And now what Elon and his cronies are doing is going after the journalist who then published a story about this. And also J.D. Vance is calling on him to be reassigned. And again, this is under an Attorney General, Pam Bondi, who was just appointed and confirmed a couple days ago, put out a bunch of orders and guidance that basically says that firing someone for being a racist is now illegal in the United States. So this is one of those minor stories that's now really highlighting the difference between what things were a month ago and what things are like now. What they've tried to go, again, for folks who don't understand, diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, CRT, this critical race theory, all of these things are code for conservative, for minority and black. That's all they've ever been. So when they're saying they want to erase these things from public life, that's what they're talking about. So you have this massive shift to the white supremacist ideology that's always been a part of conservatism. Donald himself has always been a racist. One of the things that he's going after as well is the EEOC, the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission, like literally everything. The federal election commission. He told the Democrat on it, "Oh, you're fired." She's like, "Well, no, I'm not, because that's not how you do things. We have laws." This was the whole idea of having Congress and making compromises, that in order to enact a law, you have to get enough people to agree with you that the thing you don't like shouldn't be there anymore. The U.S. aid cuts, the CFPB cuts, conservatives hate these things, but they were created by law. That is how we do things in the United States. You get enough power to get enough representatives, you write the law, it gets signed by the president, the Congress allocates money, the president spends it. All of this time, the judges are going on yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and people are supposed to respect all of that. What's happening now, over the last couple of weeks, has Donald has said, no, we get the money, we own the money, we got the guns, we're doing what we want. Now we have the point now this week where the court has said, no, that's not how it works. You cannot shut down an entire agency because you just don't like it. And what's going to happen next is he's going to go, well, I just did. And that's what Elon's doing. And that's why having the keys to the Treasury and Russell Vought, who was one of the primary architects and authors of Project 2025, is now the director of the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget. So this is, again, controlling the purse strings as a way to control our country. The intelligence services have also been under full assault. You saw a plain text email with all the CIA agents hired over the last couple of years being sent to the White House so they can then vet them. Again, these are counterintelligence gold mines for all of our adversaries. Tulsi Gabbard is clearly A, dumb as hell, and B, probably a Russian asset, or has been in the past. Same thing with Kash Patel, who's now showing that he's taken all this money from directly connected Russian sources. The United States is under complete assault on various levels, and it's hard to communicate to this how big it is, right? And I was going to have a little bit of a discussion about media in general and the kind of media that folks should be consuming moving forward. I guess we're about 10 minutes into this, so I guess we can do this for a minute. So, by the way, did you notice the sphere? Yeah, this is kind of how I'm going to try and do things for a bit. This feeds into some of the philosophical side of how we create our reality that we understand, right? This world that we build in our mind that comes from all this information that we get from the outside world, the media that we consume. You have your 5 direct senses, right? You can see, you can hear, smell, taste, touch, feel, all of this stuff that's going around you, but then you build in your mind and your conception this world outside of that. And all of the information that comes from, that's built from your sense of history and reality outside, comes from media, from various forms of media, books, TV, songs, oral history, every kind of thing that people discussion with all this stuff. This is how you build that image. And lately, our media systems, our mass media corporate systems are broken. And the way that they convey information, the way that they talk about things, is with a context that I think a lot of people don't quite get, is that who it is that's talking to you. And this is one of the things that I've been thinking about, is from a media criticism standpoint of how to help people get outside of those media bubbles that they live in, and how to start to think about that. And what I would say to you is that the way that you need to start to look at media sources is you need to know who owns and runs them. And if you can't question or talk to or know who that person is, you need to be really skeptical about what information's coming to you from that place. There are many more now independent media sources popping up, and other ways to see analysis, and I would highly, highly recommend, as we move forward into this straight fascist era, you find some, because our national corporate media in the United States is broken. And these last couple weeks, their ability to talk about and cover clearly, obviously, overwhelmingly illegal actions, as if they're just like, oh, he just decided to do that. That's not the reaction that they should be having, right? That's not conveying the gravity and the reality of the situation to you, the viewer, accurately. You need to know that if you are someone who believes in the rule of law, you should be preparing to take to the street to fight for your country, because the people who control it do not care. And there's not a goddamn single fucking Republican who gives a shit about any of this. And that's one of the things that also has happened with the same media that has these people on all the time, talking to them, but never asks them hard questions about, wait a second, he's a felon, right? Oh, wait, no, this is the branch of government that's supposed to control this stuff. It is quite bad. One thing that I will say real quick, when he became president, and supposedly, when you do, you're supposed to take an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States. Donald did not put his hand on the Bible when he made that oath. And I want to say real quick, if I've got a picture of that, and let's see, right? I mean, here comes John Roberts, who's, doing his whole tearing the Constitution apart thing. He doesn't care, and then he holds his hand up, right? Are you going to say this? Does he put his hand on the Bible to swear? Does he?
The United States. The office
he
of
doesn't.
President of the United States.
He
and
doesn't.
will, to the best of my ability, and will to invest.
See, she's holding the weird lady with the hats,
and defend.
but he's got that thing, and they're just standing there. She's holding
of the
him.
United States.
He's not putting his hand on there.
So help me.
So let me just be clear here on that. He didn't.
So help me.
And then she walks away with whatever she's doing. Weirdo. To be clear, Donald didn't put his hand on the Bible when he took his oath. So I think even in his mind, he pulled one over on stuff. He fooled the people to think that he took an oath. Which is to say that this felon rapist who has no respect for the rule of law is bringing a complete white supremacist ideology to the White House, has complete and total support of nearly every prominent Christian group in the country. What does that tell you about their morality? What does that tell you about their sense of what God is supposed to, or right and wrong? It's obviously as screwed up as our media, right? There's all of these things are clearly broken, because how else do you have an idiot, demented fascist just waltz in, right? How come none of them are like, this guy is horrible, he has no clothes on, this is disgusting, get him out of here? Because they're all corrupted and broken at this point, just completely. And I mean, I hope I'm not the first one to like mention this, but that's where we're at right now. And with that, I mean, we've got Elon in there, just literally. Like, so one of the things that USAID does is, this is the U.S. soft power, right? This is how we have our ships, we have our missiles, we have our bombs, but we also have the ability to feed millions of people and provide clean drinking water around the world. This is the soft power of the United States, and it's massive. And now it's all under assault because Elon hated U.S. aid for fighting against racism in his home country. And all sorts of other things. Again, the waste and fraud and abuse that they talk about. Fraud had inspector generals and various other audits to take care of, and was a constant target for all of these departments. This waste is now everything I don't like, is generally how Republicans refer to as waste in government. They are not popular enough to pass laws to remove that, which is why they now have someone who is well beyond the law in Elon doing this stuff and claiming to have destroyed and cut and made these cuts and do this stuff. He has not. He's done it on paper or on the computer, but the law hasn't changed. And so now we are determining day by day which is the reality. The law that we've always lived by. And this fucking douchebags and his fucking little hacker bullshit. Anyway, sorry. So, let's see. Oh yeah, so our Attorney General, Pam Bondi, her thing is about zealotry? I don't know, go both ways on that one sometimes in my head. Her thing, she mentions this word zealously, zealotly, like 3 times, so there's all sorts of craziness going to be coming on the law side, and we'll cover that as it comes out. I'm not going to speculate too much. The ICE raids here in, I'm in Colorado. They made a big thing about eating the cats and dogs. Remember that ridiculous bullshit? So they're going house to house, masked men from various departments. They told the media that they were looking for specific people, but then went house to house, apartment to apartment, knocking on every single door looking for anybody who's undocumented. So Donald has made up some ridiculous numbers for trying to get people deported. But because Biden has been enforcing the law correctly over the last 4 years, there's not like a whole lot of violent criminals here. Crime is well down. Again, this is one of the huge lies our media let Donald tell for the whole campaign. Crime has been continually down since the end of the pandemic. And even then, as every educated, intelligent person should also already know, immigrants generally commit less crime than native-born people because they're happy to be here and not douchebag assholes breaking the law. Like our rapist felon president, who's 34 fucking felonies. So, the ICE raids, they're going door to door trying to kick people out. Donald wants to kick out, get huge numbers. He's not going to be able to because there's just not that many people who fit the description that he's claiming. So even though they have set up a concentration camp in Gitmo, again, it's been a long couple weeks, they're not going to have millions of people to deport, which he's claimed. And if they start doing that, it's going to get really, really nasty. So they're just trying to scare everyone and do all this stuff while Elon's taking control of the money. So they're going after journalists. Donald has called for multiple journalists to be fired. I'm playing some video games too, which is always fun. I highly recommend you do some fun things that are fun. So this Doge kid, they're going to try and rehire him. They're going to get him back in there, even though for his racist post. Because again, now firing people for racism is illegal in the United States. Think about that. It's gone that far in the shift. All of you, both sides are the same people. You're horribly, horribly wrong, and I hope you will admit it sooner rather than later. The trans kid thing, I mean, again, horrible policy, stupid, built on bigotry. None of these people were called bigots during the campaign by our major media because they don't want to offend anybody, but they are ridiculous bigots. The FCC going after a news station for posting video of one of these ICE raids, claiming, oh, they're endangering these masked federal agents by giving their live position, by reporting the news that these people are literally going door to door right now. The crackdown on the media is coming very quickly and very strong. This is some of the other stuff. LeBron's really good at basketball. I don't know if you've heard about this. This is some of the members of Congress trying to get into the Department of Education, which, again, the Republicans have hated for a long time, have tried to close, but because that's so wildly unpopular, because of people who actually understand what the Department of Education does and has done for this country, don't want it gone, but Republicans hate it, so they're just going to use the fascism to kill it. It's been a busy week. And shitification. This is... I recommend calling them Nazis and making them feel bad and shaming them. Again, I'm going to go ahead and end on this, but the spaceship Earth theory, moral theory that I'm championing, and old school Christianity or any religion that you want to come up with, have this notion of shame and doing right and wrong, and publicly shaming people works. It has worked the entirety of human civilization. Regardless of your philosophy or idea, there is still going to be right and wrong with that, and people who do wrong, you don't have to necessarily punish them per se, but you can shame them, and shame the fucking Nazis. Make them uncomfortable, make them feel bad for being bad. This is one of the ways that we right the ship, is we build this moral system based on the notion that Nazis are bad. Which isn't that, outlandish, but that's where we are. Back to the basics. So, thanks for hanging out. If you made it all the way to the end, I'm not going anywhere. Despite the fact that a lot of what I say and continue to say will soon be illegal in this country. And people are like, oh, that's so hyperbolic. Go back and look at my shows for a little bit and then watch what happens over the next little bit. During Donald's last term, 1 million people died because he mismanaged a fucking pandemic. I know a lot of folks have memory hold that, and I am just doomed for having a better than average human memory. But I remember what happened, and it's going to be a lot worse this time if we don't stop it first. Nazis just don't go away. Alright, peace out. You guys stay strong, have fun, be honest about what's going on, and find good voices to listen to as we move forward. You're going to need them. Cheers.